they should make a weed line, like a cannabis line, and call it I Forget.
No, I don't think that's
like
the
iPhone or something, and just be like, oh man.
Oh, I forget.
Yeah, I forget, and they're just like stoners.
I was gonna go to the store, but then I got high. Okay, I see. I see. Ladies and gentlemen, with that beautiful introduction, we are back. House of Herby, your favorite podcast. I'm your host, Qveen Herby. Your co-host, Jedi Nick, is over here. We got Luna sitting on a lap. Gary is sitting on something. He's somewhere.
Sitting on a big old fluffy rug.
There he is. And we have Alex. Okay, so we should start mentioning that Alex is a part of this because his interjections are so valued here. It feels like sometimes when you're doing a podcast, you're just talking and talking forever to no one. But Alex reminds me that this is like a collaboration. We have, thousands of you that are listening to this every week now.
Alex reminds you? Hopefully I remind you. I'm right here, okay?
Yeah,
talk to me.
But we've been together, it's coming up on 18 years now.
It will have been 18 fucking years this fall.
At this point, we sometimes feel like we're the same person.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
I mean, sometimes.
Is that weird for you?
But not really. Is it weird for you?
We try to.
Why do you look like that?
We try to maintain boundaries of some kinds, you know.
Speaking of which, we were supposed to escape to the mountains this weekend,
yes.
but we can't anymore
because there's a blizzard.
Blizzard mountains.
They got like 9 feet of snow, so we can't. So now
How
we're
much
like,
did they actually get?
No, 9 feet.
They literally got 9 feet.
Yes.
Dude,
no, it's
that
a state
is
of emergency.
crazy.
It's
like
an emergency.
opening doors and it's just a wall.
Yeah.
It's like
Can
Game
you
of
imagine?
Thrones.
I cannot. You tunnel. You would have to tunnel out.
Yeah.
So there was 1 year in Boston, a couple years, but 1 year in particular when we were in college there in Boston when it was like...
That was record snow.
It was like a record snow or something at the
People's
time.
cars were
just done.
lost.
Yeah, they were like...
Wow.
They were under
just
the snow.
Wait until fucking June when the snow melts.
I would see like holes burrowed in the snow and you could see like a Mercedes hub plate or whatever, like a wheel.
You had somebody carved... They had to literally snow plow the sidewalks and it went beyond the head. Like it would be like 6 or 7 feet tall high.
Yes.
This wall of snow.
Insane.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So that's what we're bringing this up because this is a creative living podcast. So it is important when you start feeling tired and burnt out. Like we just dropped the Muse EP and like we've been going so hard in this house, like getting everything ready and done and the necklace is moving and all these different things.
Content wars.
Content wars. So it is important to take breaks and to kind of gauge when you're feeling a little bit burned out or like you need to fill up your cup. And unfortunately we had a blizzard. So we're going to figure this out and we're about to celebrate St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. St. Patty's Day.
Patty's Day.
Which Nick is partially Irish.
I am 50% Amy.
That's pretty high.
That's pretty good. It's not a majority, but it's pretty close.
I think I have some in my chart. I can't remember how much.
Probably.
Yeah.
So my dad is completely Irish.
Okay.
Noonans, Flynn's, I forget. Oh, it's like all
Was it
just
O'Noonan?
It was at some point.
That's so
I don't know
fun.
when.
You had an apostrophe in your name.
O'Noonan.
That's so
I
fun.
don't know what accent this is, but it's not Irish.
O'Noonan.
Oh, Noonan. And then mom is completely like French Canadian.
Yes.
So it's Boucher, Chalou, like
all French.
all the French shit.
names.
Yeah.
What a vibe.
It is a vibe. She grew up speaking French, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Man, I need to learn more also about Irish culture. I've never been there. I heard it's beautiful.
Okay, so we need to go. It definitely...
You never toured over there?
No.
That part?
Never toured in Ireland.
No, we did just London.
But we've been to plenty of St. Patty's Day parties that were dangerously drunk. It was
my God.
It's definitely like the drinking is. I know there's more to the culture than drinking.
There's
It's
gotta
cold.
be.
Is it cold in Ireland?
I mean, yeah.
Is that why the drinking is and some
cold and wet?
Where does
and they have
whiskey-
golf. Oh no,
whiskey's-
is that Scottish?
shit? See,
Sorry.
you can't confuse
Shit,
those. They
you
get
can't
pissed
fuck
about
I know
that.
that in Chicago on St. Patrick's Day, they turn the river green, so that's good.
Wow.
So that's not an
How is that
environmental
accomplished?
disaster
Yeah.
or anything.
I don't know how they do it, but yeah, every year.
I don't know how they do
Wow. Somebody invested in that and poisoned all of y'all.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Okay, so in radio promo, they used to try to do you line up where everything's an event, right? You got to have something be an event or whatever. So St. Patrick's Day was always like an event. So they would set up a booth or have to be whatever. So we were, I forget, I think it was this one year, we were in Milwaukee.
Yes.
And the event started at like 10 a.m.
Oh, shit. It was early.
No, it started with an a.m. It was definitely before noon. God. And, we like roll in there. And as we pulled up in the car, the bar across the street, because it was in like the downtown area. There was bars everywhere.
It was lit.
Oh my God.
Shout outs to Milwaukee.
Stumbling.
I was like I can live here. This is a vibe.
There were people like straight up just falling on their ass.
Wow.
At like 10:30 in the morning.
Wow.
It's like, okay, here we go. It was a fun, it was a fun event still, but it was just like, holy shit.
It's always fun to.
Boston was always insane.
Always. Yes. So many Irish. Wow. Anyway, moving on. Happy St. Patty's.
Happy
Enjoy
St.
yourself
Patty's Day.
safely. Be responsible. We love you.
Yep.
Today's topic is, speaking of tradition, maybe. Tradition and culture, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know. Let's just jump into it.
Okay.
It's the astrology episode. We are psyched about this because, as you know, I am especially very much into astrology. I got Nick into it. He's definitely down. Alex is now into it. And it all anchors around like the way that we got into it. We want to share with you how that happened. It all
anchors around trying to get a date in LA. Because if you don't know astrology, forget about it.
Yeah.
If this is the only reason you're going to send this to somebody, that's a good reason.
Yeah, this is how you get in the dating game in LA. You have to know your signs. I had a Lyft or Uber driver the other night, and she was like, "Man, why am I only attracted to Virgos?" And I was like, "Wow, only in LA. Only in LA can we really?"
Maybe it's other places at this point. It could be, but it's very, very, very prevalent in LA. Specifically, the women in LA.
Yes. Let us know if you're not an LAer. If you're not an Angelean, wherever you're from, are people into astrology?
San Diegans.
Let us know where you're from, if you're into it, if you're commenting on YouTube, if you're in the Patreon. Shout outs to our sugar daddies. Hey, we got over 800 some. I'm sure it's more now. This is like we're recording this early. Thank y'all for supporting us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Cheers to you. We're having the martinis as always. If you've never learned about astrology, this is the episode for you because we're going to hit you with all the basics. I don't want to go too crazy. I have friends who are astrologers that are massively talented at doing this. By the way, it is a distinct talent to be an astrologer. This is the first thing I'll tell you. You should not expect yourself to be able to read a chart to the depths and the detail that these professionals can do it. It's pretty astounding. I'm also going to talk about the skepticism about astrology. I know there's people listening that are probably like, I don't know, Queen, this is kind of weird. Like, is it real? Is it just horoscopes? So we're going to cover all the stuff today in this episode. So why don't we start with Nick? Do you remember when we got into astrology? I say we because you were dragged in.
Sure was, Amy.
Against your will.
We were in this band called Carmen and unhappy in our situation in this band called Carmen.
Correct.
So we were trying to leave our situation that we were in with a band called Carmen.
Correct.
And had been trying for a long time to communicate to the label that we were not happy and we're trying to leave. And it just kind of the conversation wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't really being had.
Wild.
So we were just kind of like in a dark place. And we were on tour. And our band and crew, Janine, Edward, shout out. Everybody calls her J9. And the whole band and crew, everybody, they pitched in, they got us an astrology reading.
As a gift.
As a gift.
Happy birthday. Me and Nick birthdays are 2 days apart.
2 days apart.
So it's easy to get us a gift. You can get us a joint gift.
It could also be a joint.
Joints, yeah.
As a gift. And then
a couples reading, a natal chart couples reading with an astrologer.
Gall, this guy who we didn't know, who was Janine's guy.
Yep.
So we go out to his spot. We get off the road. We come back home. We go out to his spot to get the reading because we were just kind of we were just frustrated with the situation, and we're looking anywhere we could for some kind of answers, really, some kind of guidance, something to try to have something make sense.
When your lawyers can't help, your friends, your family, nobody can offer you any advice and you feel stuck in life, you start looking into other methods.
Start checking shit out.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, cool. Had no expectation, had no whatever.
I really was a skeptic at this time. So I want to say, what year was it?
Ooh, let's see.
It's like 20...
When did, hold on, carry the two, and let's see.
2014, 2015? Is that like 10 years ago now?
It was 2014? Okay. 13.
Something like this.
Something like that.
I was like, okay, thanks everyone for this gift. Yeah, we'll definitely go because y'all spent money on it. Okay. Yeah. It's not cheap. You pay like a few $100s for this person's time, this professional's time. And the morning of the reading, I was reading the recap email, like make sure to bring your birth time. And I was like, who knows their actual birth time? Does anybody just recall this information? No. And then I was frantically searching the house. And remember, we were like hungover from like your birthday. So it was like kind of like, it was bad. I was not feeling well.
Yeah.
And somehow I knew which folder to look in, and pulled my birth certificate out, and I found my birth time. It was like shocking to me because I was like,
you have your birth certificate?
Yeah, it was right. I didn't expect to find it.
Do you know where
that
my
day.
birth certificate is?
No.
I do.
You,
Alex does.
I think you just went with noon. So the safe bet, if you don't know your birth time and you're sitting with an astrologer or you're looking it up online,
Yeah, they
and
say
you don't
go
know
with
your
noon,
birth time, just
right?
go with noon.
Yeah,
Go with noon.
I think I did find out. I think it's like
Later.
It's 12:30. It's like right after.
Or you text it. A lot
midnight.
of people will text their mother
Frantically
or father.
right
Yeah,
before you
and be
go,
like, do you know?
which was
Because
me.
they have it on file.
Or
Hopefully, maybe.
they were there.
Or if you don't, like your
You can-
siblings are adopted, so they don't know their birth time. So
True.
they went with noon.
And my roommate who went and saw Gall was able to call the hospital, and they were able to look up her birth time because her
Oh,
mom didn't know.
shit.
So that's
Damn.
also an option.
So at this point, this is the funny fast forward. Everybody we know goes to see Gall.
God, the trickle down effect from you.
Everybody we know goes
Well,
to see
really
Gall.
from Janine, because Janine sent us, and then we sent. You saw our old agent the other day,
Yeah,
and
last
he was
night.
like, "Oh, I got a fucking meeting with Gall tomorrow."
Him and his wife go to see him every year. That's more consistent than we go.
So funny.
So we, of course, there are a lot of talented astrologers. Don't think that you have to see this specific professional, but Gall, Sasson, I think is how you pronounce it, Sasson. And I have his book. If you're watching on Patreon, I have his book here today. It's called Cosmic Navigator. He handed me this book after the read. Now the reading was so intense. This is our first time, and I was like very skeptical.
Yep.
Gave him our birth time. You give him your location of birth, like the city and
You have to know
state and
where,
country.
time, and what else?
Date.
Date, obviously.
Yes. So they put that information and it actually pulls up the snapshot of what the sky looked like the moment you were born. So when you took your first breath, the doctor writes down the time, or whoever writes it down on your birth certificate. This is like when you activate as a human being, according to like the thousands of years old astrology information. They're saying that, the angel seals your lips. They even say like the Cupid's bow, which is like that little divot above your lip, is like the angel saying shh and like making you forget your past life, and then you start anew. This is like all
Not
the
creepy at all.
mythology. The mythology is really beautiful. And that's what we learned from Gall. I was just like overwhelmed. I remember crying at one point because I just didn't understand how someone who didn't know me, and he didn't know us.
No, he didn't.
He doesn't know any of y'all that go to see him.
He
and
spelled afterwards.
They don't have to.
I think he spelled. So what happens is he, at least with Gall, and for how he does it in our experience, he records everything.
Yes.
Because we had no idea what to expect, right? So we show up there, and he starts just kind of
Talking.
just talking at us.
He's like, oh, well, you're this and this and you, and this is what I know about you. And me and Nick are like looking at each other like, what
the
is
fuck
going on?
But he records the whole thing so that when you're done, you
Yeah.
go home and you can replay, because it's way too much information for you to kind of get
It is.
in real time.
Right. So
You're going to miss some shit.
So his website is cosmicnavigator.com if you're interested in him. But I just wanted to share an excerpt from his book because it is like the moment you're born, you take that breath, the doctor writes down the time. This is barcode. It's a barcode for your journey ahead for this life. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of different ways to look at it. I think a skeptic who used to be me would say, well, it could apply to anyone. Like a Taurus is stubborn and loyal. It's like, okay, well, a lot of people feel those traits. But you're about to find out in this episode, the intricacy to which these details, like we're not just talking about your sign, you actually have all 12 signs working in your life in different houses.
Right.
12 signs, 12 houses, all these planets, all these aspects. And like, then you have the current astrology running against or with your chart that affects how you are experiencing the current moment. So an astrologer really can see all these things. The more experienced astrologers can really help to guide you, and you can come to these sessions with questions. You can come with strategic asking for advice. Mm-hmm. I noticed with Gall, he's
it's not
sometimes
like a fortune teller.
It's not a fortune teller.
It's not like that.
He's not like, ooh, I see some bad.
Yeah,
no,
totally.
it's
I see flames in a dark place.
every astrologer I've ever spoken to is never doomsday.
No,
like it's never been in any, so there's nothing to fear.
It's not that vibe. Yeah.
And it is very mathematical, and you'll understand more about that as we get into it. But I love the mythology of astrology. Can we start with this?
Well,
so,
do you want to finish the story about how we actually got into it?
Well, yeah. The reason that we got excited.
Right. So we go go into this dude, have no idea what to say. He tells us a bunch of shit. Like you in particular, at one point, he was saying,
first person to say you're a designer.
You're a designer. He said, what is it, shapes and colors?
Yeah, it took me 10 years to unpack that. I was like, I'm not sure what you mean.
So, okay, what did he say? He said, all right, so there's a lot of things, but the big question that what we wanted to ask when we were there was, what is there a way out of this? If there were to be a solution for us to try to exit with the situation we're in, how do we do that?
How do we get out of the record deal?
How the fuck do we get out of this shit?
Nobody gets out of record deals, by the way. It's very difficult.
And it can be, man. It can be a war zone. So he said, according to, blah, 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 blah on your charts and all this shit, me, meaning like, you, meaning me, Nick, has to communicate with LA Reid, depending on like
the label head
between these certain dates, right? And it looked like if it was between, because whatever became into fucking whatever, right? So there was some alignment between these 2-week window. If I could communicate with him between that, it looks like if that happens, then by this other date, the situation will have changed and the situation will look victorious in your favor, right? So all these things, it's just like, it's not like a yes, no, or anything. It's just like this, that, and the date was July 1st.
It's guidance.
Okay?
Astrology is guidance.
The date was July 1st. So we do what he says. And I tried giving him a call because I hadn't. I think he referred to me as like the evil boyfriend.
Yeah, he hates. Yeah, well, at the time he was like, no, I just want to talk to Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I would, so I gave him a call, and I was like, look, dude. From where we're sitting, we have 2 options. Okay. Option 1 is let us put out another single, which I knew they couldn't do.
Right.
And option 2 is let us walk. And he stopped and he laughed. And he said, so you're telling me I got 2 options? And right there in my brain, I was like, fuck, we're fucked. We're fucking done.
Negotiation
I fucking
101.
ruined our entire lives. This is it. It's over. He's
It
going to
felt
put us on
so heavy. Do you remember how stressed
It felt
we were?
very heavy.
And now looking
he was
back,
like, he's
it's
going to put us
oh.
on he's going to put us on a fucking shelf somewhere. We're fucking over. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. And he stopped laughing and he said, all right, let me think about it. I'll call you in a few days. And it was like a week later. And I didn't know when I thought maybe he was just going to never call back, whatever. Right. And he called back. And he's like, look, if you're not happy here, I don't want to keep you.
You're right.
So I still believe in the project heavily, blah, 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 this whole thing. I don't want to let you go. But if you don't want to be here, I'm not going to keep you here.
Yeah. And
he actually let us negotiate the terms on the way out, which we did, and literally signed the paperwork on June 30th. Which was like a day or two before. So it probably arrived on his desk like July 1st, 2nd, 3rd.
Or they overnighted the executed paperwork to us on the 1st or something. So
I think it was like July 3rd.
It was down to the exact date that the astrologer
It was like
had
literally
told us.
within the day that said this.
And like, what are the odds of this happening, right? So
what are the odds of this happening?
So Gall had given me his book, the Cosmic Navigator book. And this is like a thick, it says, Design Your Destiny with Astrology and Kabbalah. Because he's from Israel. So he's got a lot of the tradition and the mythology of Kabbalah in here too, which is so fascinating. I didn't know anything about it. And I started reading this book, y'all. And then I was like, Nick, there's 12 zodiac signs and 12 houses. Usually there's 12 songs on an album. So we started recording.
Leo rising.
Started recording.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is a fun way to be inspired, because we used to be about like color theory and like we've always been into this kind of woo-woo shit, but this was like, oh, this is science, and I can as a songwriter now be inspired by Aries and Taurus and Cancer and Venus and Mercury and all these mythological energies.
Gracious. Yeah,
so we got really into it.
We did, because we had an experience where it was like literally came down to the fucking day.
Yeah.
It was wild, and it worked out exactly. It was a wonderful situation. So
I would love to hear if y'all have any stories about how astrology has kind of pinpointed things for you, because it is very personal too. It's not something that you run around shouting from the rooftops like, my astrologer said that. It's like, no, this is your personal journey. It's your barcode. It was fun though, after learning, to read our friends' charts and understand, oh, your best friend is a
narcissist.
Aquarius. No. Narcissist is the 9th house. No. No.
It's like your 9th house is in narcissism.
But that was so fun, because also I didn't know we had rising signs. So you've got your sun sign, which is your main, if you look up your horoscope on the newspaper.
Right. That's your main one.
That's your main one. But you have all 12 signs affecting you in different houses. And your rising sign is who you are slowly becoming as you get older. So I didn't know this, but once I understood I was a Leo rising, I was like, oh, no wonder I act this way.
I have a question real quick going back. So you went into this astrology meeting kind of skeptical. Did you go with the intention of asking this specific thing, or were you kind of like, let's just see what he has to say to us?
Oh no,
you had intention.
I'm pretty sure we did. I mean, it was mostly going to start out like, let's just see what happens.
Yeah,
but
it was a little of both because we just knew nothing.
But if there was a chance to ask questions or to see what, that was absolutely the plan.
I think everybody assumes it's going to be like a fortune telling session where you just somebody has a cool scarf and they tell you what they think in a crystal ball. Nothing like that.
So he did have a great scarf though. So what was your experience with? Because based on you also had a reading.
I had a reading, yeah.
And so based on what you thought it was going to be versus what it ended up being, what was the difference for you?
So I assumed the same thing. I kind of went in there knowing, not so much a skeptic at that point, because I knew I couldn't go till I was ready to accept that, like, I was going to be open to what was going to happen.
Right.
Sure.
So when I went, but I don't know. Everyone that's gone since me, that's a friend of mine, has had the same experience. You like barely walk in the door, he starts talking at you. Thank God he records it, because literally you're like 20 minutes in, you're like, hold on, wait, what?
Every time I see him, I'm like, you're recording this, right? Yeah. Because it's
because wow.
I bring a notebook. I'm so
you're like taking notes and shit.
Yeah.
I will say though, like most of everything he said to me has come to pass or has given explanation to so many things that have happened in my life, and has helped me get some peace with some things in my life. So
help you navigate the cosmos.
I mean, that's a valuable thing.
Yes.
That's
cosmically navigating.
I was cosmically navigating.
Oh
my god.
Okay, and can I take a second to name drop a couple of my other favorite astrologers? So I love Cosmic RX, which is my friend Maddie. On Instagram. And then also my friend Desiree, who's Simply Sun Signs on Instagram. Now there are so many talented astrologers out there, so you do want to find somebody that has the voice that you resonate with. Is kind of the same for any healers that you hire, right? If you go to get a massage, like sometimes it's just a certain way energy somebody has and the way they touch or the way they talk. It's important for you to find your person. But in this house, we love Gaul. We've loved him the longest. He got us into this mess. So thank you, Gaul.
Thank you, Gaul.
And I want to just read, are we good on that? Okay, if you want to look up your birth chart, if you're like, Qveen, I don't want to hear this whole episode. This is a lot. Just go to ALABE.com. This is Astrolab. I think it's like a European-based company that gives you the free. If you click on free chart, you can just type in, like we said, your location of birth, your birth time, and your date, and it will give you a computerized analysis of your chart. And it's so fascinating, even to read the generic descriptions. You start to piece together, like, oh shit, and it really does help give you perspective. If you're like a creative and living artist on listening to this podcast, it's fascinating.
Or even if you just want to, like with the reincarnation shit, want to just see it as like a wild story.
Period.
Cool. Let me just see something this way for a minute. Yeah. That's cool too.
We're all about self-discovery, bad bitchery. This is a safe space to ask questions. Please share with us any resources that you have, but let's dive into what is this like wheel and barcode about? Like what are the 12 signs, 12 houses? What is all this shit? The source of this story does come from Gaul's book, Cosmic Navigator, The Myth of God's Children, or How the 12 Signs Got Their Groove on.
Yeah. This shit's hilarious.
So Gaul was like, go back in time 5 billion years. Imagine Earth as a great hall, a chamber of multiple treasures, both physical and spiritual. Outside of it is an astral lobby, a waiting room for angels, if you will. Separating the two is a door, but not just any door. It's a portal of raging fire, a vortex of swirling flames. God invited his 12 angelic children into the waiting room and said, "This is the earth, a glorious garden that I'd like you to protect and serve. As a token of my appreciation for your dedication to this task, each one of you, one after the other, may take from the chamber of gifts whatever you can carry. Then you must ascend to the skies and fortify yourself as a constellation that will help to guide all sentient beings who navigate in darkness."
Okay.
So that's chapter 1 of his book, the very beginning. And I love when we retell a story because it's...
All right, so he's got 12 fucking people on the other side.
So the first
of the room,
kid
right?
is Aries, right?
Aries, but before he's even done telling the story.
Before he's done even explaining this.
Aries fucking runs through the fire. Fuck you guys.
Fuck you guys.
Fucking out of here.
And all he takes is a seed.
He goes into Earth or, whatever the Earth.
To the chamber.
Fucking,
and he
chamber.
And there's everything. Everything's in the chamber. And he takes a seed.
And bounces.
Because Aries... The vibe, if you know an Aries, if you have Aries in your chart, it's just fire energy. It's warrior, startup, go energy. Yeah. And Aries knows that they don't need anything but a seed. That is so powerful. And it really, this story really, to me, embodies the signs. If you're confused about these, it helps you understand your friends and your family. Yeah. Then Taurus saunters in second.
Sister Taurus comes in.
She's a girl.
Yeah.
A female entity. It's a cow or a bull.
Yeah.
And she saunters in and she takes art and money and pleasure and all these things. And she, saunters out, takes her time.
I like that.
Stubborn as hell. Love her. That's me and Nick's sign, by the way. Gemini comes in and takes we're going to speed through the rest of these. Gemini takes ideas and actually, I think communication and lying.
Yeah.
Which is really, hey, that's kind of a bar.
It's crazy. And they were like, I'm going to sell Taurus's art and make 10 times the money or something like that.
Because they took communication. So they're like, hey, Taurus, I know you're like a really sauntery little bull. Let me see if you give me that painting, I can make you 10 times more money and take my commission. So that's why it's always helpful if you're a Taurus to find a Gemini in your business somehow, because they do have these gifts for communication and connection.
And then what's the fourth one?
Cancer comes in and takes the moon, and it takes birth, and it takes water, the ocean.
Yep.
We'll just zoom through the rest of these.
And then Leo?
Leo's story is funny.
So then Leo's the king. Is Leo the fifth one?
Leo's yeah.
So the king comes in then, and he's like, hey, I wanted everyone else to go in first because to make sure it was safe, not poison the food.
Leo is like the life of the party, but he doesn't come until later because he's like, I want to make sure nothing's poisoned. And then I come in and make a huge mess.
Huge mess, but a great time. Everybody
Leo
loves me.
Leo takes childlikeness qualities and joy and all these wonderful creativity, imagination, or no, just creativity.
Yeah.
Sorry, imagination's for Pisces. She's at the end. She's a bad bitch.
Yeah, she's a fire.
So Leo leaves, and then in comes Virgo.
Because so Leo leaves, and the place is a fucking mess. Just leaves with everybody, and the place is fucking trashed. And then Sister Virgo comes in quietly by herself, unnoticed, and cleans the entire thing without recognition.
Cleans the entire place up.
So that's the Virgo. They're caretakers.
So cool, right? So it goes through the whole story, and I think what's the most fascinating is, you got Aquarius taking the future and ideas.
So you get near the end, and then there's Capricorn literally takes the walls.
Like the earth.
The walls and the earth.
Yeah, Capricorn has that
solid,
consistent,
sturdy, traditional,
persistent thing.
Yep.
And then there's nothing left, and Pisces comes in.
No, so then Aquarius comes in after Capricorn.
Oh, and takes the future.
Takes the fucking future.
Jesus.
Because there's nothing left, so they just take the fucking future.
This is a crazy story.
Pisces comes in and imagines it all back. So they take imagination.
And the story starts over, which is the perfect story. This is the cycle. If you look at your chart on that site, it's a wheel. It's all in Gall's book that this story is super cool. But once you get into the signs, we could even go through them.
So what's your sign?
Taurus.
So you're a Taurus, but do you remember so then you have also your your rising sign, which you said you become more as you grow up.
Most people want to know your sun, your rising, and your moon. Those are kind of the mainsies.
And the moon is how you display your emotions. Okay?
Yeah, the moon is important.
Everybody trying to pick up the dates, take notes. Okay, these are the things you want to know. So your
when you meet somebody,
sun sign is kind of the one that everybody knows. That's Taurus.
And honestly, Desiree's book, the Simply Sun Signs book, has those comparisons of who you're best aligned with.
Oh yeah, there's a sex
She's got
one
a great
too.
book, and there's a Sextrology is a great one.
Sextrology.
That one is a little saucier.
That's my DJ name.
That one's kind of okay when we're talking about kinks.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're you want somebody with big ankles. And I was like, this is very specific. Have you read this Sextrology?
What?
No.
It's a hoot.
What are you talking about? And why did you out me publicly about the cankles?
No, it's a lot more
What? Okay. How the fuck did you remember that?
You want big
ankles?
I like big ankles. Yeah. I have big ankles. Thank you.
A sturdy foundation.
Yeah. That's
what I mean? Fuck some titties and ass. Show me the ankles.
The Simply Sun Signs, Desiree's book, is much more useful in terms of how to what qualities to look for in your partner.
Okay.
And what qualities work well in partnerships. But Sextrology gets it's almost like vulgar in some way. Not really, because if you think we're all sensual beings.
Yeah, I think it's just super open.
But man, it talks about, and it's if you're gay or straight, there's different things. It's a very thick and heavy book, Sextrology. Hilarious. I'm pretty sure every copy that we get, we give away to someone because they come over and it's on the coffee table and people are so enamored.
Yeah, it's a great coffee table book.
It's
it really
a wild
is,
experience.
It's a good conversation starter.
It is.
So anyway, can I see your ankles? So what's your rising sign?
Leo is my rising.
Are you also Leo?
No, I am. Let's see.
Capricorn
I'm Taurus,
rising.
Cap rising, and Sag moon.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Capricorn rising is late bloomers, people that are working hard and for a long time and consistent, and they get richer and their life gets better as they get older.
Right.
We love a Capricorn.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Late bloomer. It's the mountain goat. So like slowly, not always going to take like the fastest route up there,
but definitely collecting.
But always gets there.
Collecting all the shit and carrying it with him.
Yep. It's slow and steady. So, and then Sagittarius moon. So how you display your emotions is your moon sign.
Yep.
And Sagittarius is pretty much like happy-go-lucky, adventurous. So pretty much I have no
Optimist.
emotional. Yeah, I'm just kind of like
no.
Everything is always a joke.
I've seen you cry like half of one time. So that's a Sag. Sag moon, like
Super
y'all.
Sag.
I don't get it. Yeah.
That should be a T-shirt. I'm a
my
Sag,
moon is,
bro.
what did I just say? My moon is Cap.
Your moon is Cap.
That's interesting. I don't know enough about it. See, and I've researched this for years, and I can't learn enough. So don't feel overwhelmed by this, y'all. There are professionals out there that you can talk to.
Yeah.
And books that are much more helpful. So in Gall's book, for example, I went through and just highlighted everything that applied to me. A lot of these astrology books. He comes out with one every year too that analyzes the whole year for each sign.
Right.
So it's a super helpful. You can apply this. I noticed last year I had a planner that talked about every astrological aspect, and I spent 1 year focused on that. And I noticed that it was overwhelming for me. It was too much.
Yeah.
So on the other side of the coin here, I'm like, don't go crazy on this, y'all. Unless it's your path and your calling, like just rely on the professionals and enjoy your life. Keep some mystery to things. But it is kind of cool when you realize, oh, I can like really self-discover through astrology.
Yeah.
Gall also used tarot cards in some instances when appropriate.
At the end.
Especially if it's a decision that you're trying to make, he's able to then interpret that and help you bring out of your subconscious. The answers are in you. Your path and your life, all the answers are in you already. We just forgot. I remember the angel seals the lips and says, you came here to have the amnesic block of figuring out this life as Nick, as Alex, as Qveen.
Yeah.
Like, just figure it out.
Okay, so another thing that we learned about too was the Saturn return.
Oh, I love this.
So the
a
Saturn
lot of y'all
return-
babies are in your Saturn return
probably.
right now.
So it happens every 28 to 32 years, something like this.
Yeah.
Pretty much about
29 to 31.
every 30 years, right? So when you are around your 30, and then again when you're 60, and
Because
then again,
Saturn, so all the planets take different amounts of time to move around the chart. So like the sun moves every day. The moon takes 5 or 6. Like it's different. Every planet's different. So the Saturn return, Saturn moves so slow. Saturn is like the planet of like karma.
It's karma, right?
And
Yeah.
discipline and like, I don't even, it's
fuck shit.
Yeah, fuck shit. No, it's not always bad. Karma's
It's not always bad.
Karma's not bad.
What would be the sign of the planet of fuck shit?
Fuck shit would be Pluto. Because Pluto's the planet of transformation.
Okay, that's the second T-shirt I want to make.
Pluto.
Pluto is the planet of fuck shit.
Also, Uranus is chaos, I think.
Oh, well.
Okay, that's better.
Uranus
answer.
is...
See, I can hear all my astrologer babes listening like, no, it's
No,
stop. She doesn't know anything.
Uranus is definitely
We
chaos.
are going to have some amazing guests on this podcast. We just wanted to do these basic bitch episodes to get y'all up on,
I think it would be fun to just have like a random cutaway. And now our 60-second astrology update with... and somebody comes in and just gives us
Imagine
like a
if
quick
we had
little...
an in-house astrologer.
Let's get a fucking in-house astrology on this shit.
Accepting applications now.
That'd be fun.
Oh my God.
Let's eventually make it a show. I want to call my buddy Greg and say, hey, Greg.
Here we go. Here it comes.
And then he just says,
it's happening.
hey, guys. And that's it. And then we just cut away. We can also
That's
call...
not valuable.
That's it. Psst.
We love Greg, but that's not valuable enough.
We could call Quifide in Maine.
Greg could play us a saxophone solo when we call. That's
Cool.
That's a value.
Yeah.
That is a value. Yeah.
You never know what he's going to play.
Right. Guess this song with Greg.
Guess the song with Greg.
Oh my God. Okay, that's funnier.
Sorry, Greg. We just sort of volunteered you for some strange... He might not agree to this. Okay?
Oh,
We have to call his agent.
Oh, Greg will agree to this.
Greg, stop. Don't be a narcissist. Us after 2 weeks of knowing about narcissism. Okay. So can we go through, I want to go through like the signs. I want to go through the signs and the houses and the planets. Cause I think that's the most basic bitch analysis of astrology. As y'all are maybe sitting here listening to the podcast and pulling up your chart on astrolab.com. There's also a bunch of other sites where they do free charts. I just like Astrolab because it's like one of those, like, they're not asking you for money and it's very simple to read. So the 12 signs, Aries, again, comes in full blast. I think the two words, and I'm using like the more positive trait and the more negative trait, because everything in this universe is duality based. So there's always a good and like a more challenging aspect to everything. Aries is courage and selfish.
Okay.
That's like, hey, I would take courage if it had to come with selfishness. That's a vibe.
Okay.
Taurus is stable and stubborn.
Mm.
Isn't that a vibe? Gemini is outgoing and flaky. They are communicators. Yep.
Yeah.
Cancer is loyal and moody.
Ooh.
Isn't that interesting?
Keep going. I like the 2 words.
Leo is confidence and bossy.
Oh,
like in the more negatives,
bitch.
like too overbearing.
Got it.
Virgo is reliable, but perfectionist. Ooh.
These are all T-shirts.
Libra is balanced, but indecisive.
Oh, wow. No, I didn't.
That
think...
makes sense because they're sitting in the middle of everything. They can't really. I can't
right.
make a decision.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Scorpio is passionate but secretive.
Both my parents are Scorpios.
Scorpio is fun for Tauruses. If you have a sign that's on the opposite side of your wheel, those are like your besties. You need those.
Interesting.
We're about to talk about that too. Those are called aspects. Sagittarius, optimistic, careless.
Yeah, that's me emotionally.
We love that. A Capricorn, consistent, pessimistic. So that's something about Capricorn. Is there a little bit like a little Eeyore-y?
Yeah.
So
I feel like I'm not pessimistic at all. Maybe in some ways.
Maybe in some ways. Yeah. Again, this is so
but
personal.
It's not all of them. It's in different ways.
It's not always. Yep. Aquarius, inventive, unpredictable. They're the weirdos. We love them. Pisces, imaginative, vague.
Got it.
Yeah. So those are the words that
I like the 2-word synopsis.
It's kind of fun, right?
Yeah, it is fun. I like that.
You got to remember, like, it's all about duality. Everybody's got good and challenging traits.
Yeah.
Always. The 12 houses. So this is what I always look up nowadays. Now that I understand the signs and the planets better, I'm like, wait, okay, so if Gemini is in my 3rd house, what does that mean? You're then combining the traits of Gemini, which was like communicative and stuff, with the 3rd house would be mindset. It's all mental.
Do you have the 12 houses there?
I do.
Yeah. What are 12 houses?
First house is the self. You know this.
Okay.
On your chart, you're going to see it's at 9 o'clock, right? 9 o'clock is where the first house begins. It's like a pizza. You go clockwise. So the self is Taurus. It's going to be your sign,
right?
Like your sun sign.
Okay.
So Taurus is for me. 2nd house is money. 3rd house is mindset or like mental. 4th house is home and family. 5th house is love. That's an interesting one for y'all. 6th house is health.
Okay.
7th house is partnerships. 8th house is like sex and kind of like mysterious stuff.
Go on.
9th house is worldliness. So this is like, charity and travel and higher education. 10th house is career. It's a good one. 11th house is social and technology and future. So I thought that was interesting. And Gall always talks about this. He's like, isn't it funny that we knew that computers would be our friends? Social media. It's like where we go to connect in the future. So bizarre. We're going to have robot besties. The 12th house is the occult and woo, which is my favorite house. And that's a house that I have a lot of really good stuff in. So those are the houses. Isn't that interesting? So wherever now all of you have 12 signs and all of it, the pizza moves and rotates. And so you have these signs in different houses. So that's your first layer of complexity with this barcode of your life.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
And
we're about to add one more layer and then I'll let you breathe. Okay. Planets. Fuck. There's planets. The moment you're born, you take your first breath, the doctor writes the time down and you have your birth chart.
Okay.
There's the sun, which is the self. We knew this. There's the moon, which is your emotions and intuition, which we knew. There's Mercury, which is the mind, communication, and ideas. There's Venus, which is beauty, love, and pleasure. We love Venus. Everybody's like, oh, my Venus is touching my...
My Venus hurts.
Okay. Only on House of Herby will you get this kind of astrology coverage. Mars is action, drive, and conflict. Mars is a hot one.
Yeah.
She's war and fire. It's intense. Like Mars and Aries, like go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Jupiter, luck and expansion.
Ooh.
We love Jupiter.
Oh, it's the gas.
She's got the rings. She's hot. We love Jupiter.
Hot rings.
Or does Jupiter have rings or Saturn?
Yeah, they both do.
I'm kind of bad at this. Saturn, structure and discipline. Yeah.
Dirty.
Uranus, revolution, change, chaos. That's why earlier you're like, which one is the fuckery planet? I was like, yeah, Uranus.
Yeah.
Because also people say Uranus.
Depends if I have gluten before.
What? I don't know if that landed.
I don't know if it landed.
Are we?
I know. That's the chaos in Uranus.
The chaos in Uranus. All right. Neptune.
Please, somebody put that
Sorry,
on
2 more planets.
I can at least be a bumper sticker. Sorry, 2 more.
it does.
I'm so distracted by Uranus.
I know, it's a lot. This is like we're in first grade. And
I
you
can't get over Uranus.
When you're reading like the sex ed books in first grade and I was counting the paragraphs to when I would have to say penis in front of the whole class.
I remember distinctly we were talking about circumscribed angles one time in math, and the teacher didn't stop. He just kept going through the whole thing, and then he's like, okay, now you can laugh. And I was like,
You are that kid.
I think I got a D.
Nice. I only got a D in one class, and I cried because I knew my parents would be so disappointed.
Oh, yeah, no, my parents were pissed.
The pressure was immense.
My parents were pissed.
Okay.
I don't think I had to go in like after class twice a week and shit.
Moving on from Uranus. Neptune. Magic, dreams, and woo. We love Neptune. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think a lot of people, like creative people, I think Pharrell and Gwen Stefani both had like a Neptune obsession for a while. They both made records
They
that
were
were
the Neptunes.
Well, period. Last planet is Pluto, transformation and rebirth. We love her. Pluto is a cold little bitch. And she's out there just waiting to change.
Yep.
Is she
Covered
a
in
planet,
ass.
isn't she?
Is she a planet?
Nobody
Can't
knows
decide.
if she's even real.
I don't know.
And that because she's a transformer, of course.
Yeah.
Of course they would question her legitimacy. It's like
maybe.
she's not even Pluto anymore. She's transforming.
Maybe it's not a her anymore.
It's a they planet.
It's
We love Pluto. That's another shirt. So all of these things it becomes a 3-dimensional practice, astrology. You've got 3 or more things. Even a good astrologer can also lay your chart on top of a map. They can lay your chart on a map.
What?
And do something called astro-cartography.
Oh, no.
Can we talk about
It
this?
sounds dirty.
Astro-cartography
You usually pay double for that.
will give you like these lines, like your Venus line, your shit. What are the other lines? Help me out. See, this is why we need guests.
Uranus.
No, we're not doing a Uranus line.
We're not doing Uranus line?
We're not doing Uranus line.
Gall did that because it shows you like where will you have the most success with work, with love, with relationships.
No, that's true. That's right. I remember that.
And it's funny because all 3 of us on this podcast have popped around the country. We've hopped around we started in the Midwest. We went over here. You and I were in Boston for a while. And when I looked at my astro-cartography, which is another thing you can look up for free online. If I think the Elabe site has this as well, you'll be able to click on it and see, okay, where does that line run through? Mm-hmm. And so where does that energy band? And for me, it was very accurate. It was like, you can't stay in the Midwest forever, but it's like where tradition and everything is established. And I was like, damn. And then the West Coast was good for us. New York is good for us.
Mm-hmm.
And
this last time we went, LA was better than it was before. I feel like the first time we went, it was good,
great.
but it wasn't like great. I think the East Coast was better.
Yeah.
And this past time we went, I think it was like equal with the East Coast or something.
So definitely really fascinating shit to look up if you're soul searching and trying to figure out your next moves. We've had friends who've gone to see
Straight
an
up
astrologer
relocated.
who moved.
Yeah, my friend Megan. Yeah, she went and
changed
saw
her whole-
Gall and moved to New York and is like having
But
it's going great for her.
It's going
But
great.
it's going great for her.
Yeah.
It's also, so let's pretend we're skeptics for a second, because again, this is all crazy. It sounds crazy. It's like our reincarnation episode. Like, what the fuck?
what are you even talking about?
Imagine if just for a moment you sat down with somebody, you paid real money for somebody to tell you this science, this thousands of year old science, and you still think it's bullshit, right? At least it feels good to have somebody give you direct answers that your subconscious can use to then take action with.
Right.
That's how I look at this.
Yeah.
I'm like, even if you don't believe in it, it's still really helpful and amazing perspective shifter for you to consider all your options and help you make a better decision for the next step.
Yeah. And what you did too, which we didn't know at the time, but this is crucial to being sustainable in the creative space, is to follow the inspiration. So like you were like, oh, astrology. So it's like, cool, go fucking balls deep on astrology for a little while. Learn everything you can about it. Be inspired by it. Just chase it. Always be following and chasing the inspiration and the creativity, because you just don't know where it's going to go next. And that always keeps it never is stale that way. You know what I mean?
And there is come on, there is scientific proof. Nobody wants to pay for studies in this shit, but for thousands of years, astrology has stuck around. Full moons are proven. My brother works in a hospital, and he's like, yo, on the full moon, there are more accidents.
No, so
there are more catastrophes.
So do you know anything about hospitals?
Yes, so my mom works. She's a doctor, and they staff. So she works for in labor and delivery. They staff differently for full moon nights because more women go into labor on a full moon.
Nobody's talking about this.
Oh my God. My family friend works in a mental hospital.
Okay.
And full moon, same thing. They're like, it's a whole nother level.
Gotta up the meds.
That is not nothing.
Come on.
It's wild.
That's
no,
not
really
nothing.
Wild.
Nobody's looking into it.
So maybe it's just because I am becoming more aware of the space, but astrology is also, at least in like the LA area and like that kind of like woo-woo scene, is very feminine. And I was reading a couple articles about it. It's because it tailors to emotions. It helps describe and tell how you're feeling just in general, which is something that, that's not a masculine tendency, right? That's a feminine tendency. That's like to explore your feelings, to know who you are, all this stuff, right? And that was why it's become such a big thing. Like literally one of the most Google search thing is like, why do women like astrology so much? Which is why because it makes them feel safe, and it feels a way for them to, you tell me, to express emotions more and to learn from an emotional angle more rather than just from a rational based, fact based. You know what I mean?
I would love to see like the demographics on this podcast. Like we should take a look at our Buzzsprout account and see like what the thousands and thousands of people.
Put your hand up.
No, and if you're a man, we love you. Thank you for being here. Like the world needs more feminine energy, period. That's like the solution, right? To like the overabundance of war and anger and violence is to balance it out. We've just been run the world. I mean, I have other books about this we could talk about all day, baby, about the aliens and like the reptilians and all this shit. Like, how did the masculine become dominant? It's not always been this way. There are times before our time and before we kept any documents of things where I think the feminine was in charge. So thank you for being here. We should check out the demographics and just see, because I think it is a very female power podcast, this one.
Yeah.
It's
I think
great.
Absolutely. And it's
feminine
also
energy.
But like if you're a straight guy too.
Thank you.
We do have them.
We need you.
We do have them.
Yes,
but
we
listen,
need more. Tell your friends.
Listen, you want to, again, I'm just saying.
You're saving the world.
You got to help. You got to like pick up the bar, pick up the girl at the bar.
Right.
You got to know this shit, man.
This is not only going to give you, like, as a straight man listening to this podcast, like, it's not only going to give you game, but it's going to give you so much depth of fulfillment in your relationships, because the feminine is important. The subconscious and the intuition and like the softness and the caring and the love is very important. It is also like, as a woman, I love masculine things. Like I love masculine shit.
Do you? What do you like?
I love like,
yeah, I guess you do.
Like literally a curved corner is feminine and a 90-degree angle is masculine. And sometimes I like I like stripes. Stripes are very,
you like
black and white is very graphic.
Yeah.
It's harsh. Whereas a feminine would have curvy lines, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, literally in the background of your video right now, you've got black and white, hard corners.
For me, it's like
a bunch of penises.
It's like the masculine and the feminine are defined, but they're coexisting.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful to me. It's like flowers with like something severe.
The yin and yang of it all.
It's the yin and yang. I
contrast.
love the yin yang. Mm-hmm. That's a vibe. That was like, my parents took my pogs away with the yin yangs on it.
Mine too.
Really?
I'm so angry about this.
Wait a minute.
Our
Why?
pogs were taken away.
Because they had
the yin yang.
The yin yang is the symbol of the devil. Where we come from. But like it's just feminine masculine balance is all it is. It's
Seriously?
also, Asian influence. So maybe they thought that was like they didn't
Not
want us to
okay
get
or
into Buddhism,
something
which
about
here
them.
we are talking about astrology
what about
and
the
Kabbalah.
what about the yin and yang in particular?
Well,
is
it's a symbol of curiosity of something older and outside of Christianity that would make people ask questions, and then make people be like, maybe I don't want to do this.
So
Christianity
maybe the
thing.
balance of good and evil, but within Christianity, it's like
no evil is allowed.
It's not.
Yeah,
there's no balance of evil. It's just
evil is just for the queers smoking weed at the gas station.
It's the devil shit.
It's the devil's lettuce.
The devil's lettuce.
That's all the Uranus
So
talk.
let's wrap this up. Come on, we've been talking about this forever. But if there's any topic that you're interested in going deeper on, we're happy to do so. We love this shit. And we can also invite some guests that know more.
I think we should. Yeah. And I think even having, because look, it'll be hard. Since like you just outlined, there's so many moving parts to this for everybody, and it's always changing and shifting. So it's always something to like look at and update. But it's also hard to kind of like put into a little 60-second soundbite.
It really is.
But
that's what
I think it's still kind of fun.
I'm like, support your professional astrologer if you can afford it.
I'd be down to do that.
Do a session.
I think we do it.
Otherwise, ALABE.com is a great place to start to see if you're even interested. Remember, we've got your signs, you've got your planets, and you've got your houses. Now, these 3 things are playing in your little barcode of your life. Conjunction is when 2 things are overlapping each other on your chart. So that's like an intensified energy combo. Okay, so that's what when they say you're conjunct. This is conjunct. Like that just means like there's 2 things like emphasizing each other. You have a sextile, which is where the angle, it's like an acute angle. Rather
I got
than
one of those next door.
There's sextiles and squares, right? So sextile is definitely beneficial and a square is challenging. So when you have planets that are fighting each other at a 90-degree angle, that's a little bit more like, oh, this might be something I have to work on, or it might be a little tricky. And a sextile is when they're sort of more harmonious on your chart. And that's something where, oh, like Venus is sextiling this, like that's a good thing.
Venus is in my sextile.
Thank you. See,
Venus is in my Uranus.
Uranus is sextiling mine.
Uranus is in my sextile.
We're just gonna make sex jokes until you actually want to look this up.
I told you my moon sign is in Sagittarius.
That's what I want to say though. An astrologer is helpful because this is incredibly overwhelming stuff.
It's complex.
But an astrologer is so good at breaking it down.
Yes.
Yeah,
this
right.
is what they do.
That's what they do.
Whatever you do, and we need your art. By the way, did we tell them yet?
What do they need?
We need your art. Whatever it is that you're doing for your art, think about how much work and time and energy you put into it. An astrologer has done that. That is their art. Yeah. And so it's an honor to sit with these folks and, pay them for their time if you're interested in that. For the moon is such a whole magical thing. We could do a whole separate episode on this. For the moon cycles, it's best to build and grow and explore things when the moon is filling up or when it's waxing. And the moon is filling up to a full moon. And when you reach the full moon, that's when you've reached sort of a completion cycle. So every 2 weeks, it starts going back the other direction. So you've filled up to this thing and you're releasing things you no longer need as the moon is then waning or getting smaller and skinnier back down to a new moon. And that's the period of time when you want to edit and sort of refine what it is you're doing. And when you start living your creative life in sync with the moon cycles, everything starts to get easier because you're living in sync with the vibrations of the planets. Thank you for tuning in for another exciting episode of House of Herby. High five. Ooh, we can't reach each other if you're watching on Patreon.
I got little arms.
If you're interested in being on the Patreon, we do an extra episode every month.
That's coming out soon.
It's coming out soon. After Dark episode is always lit, and we are always talking about what you're talking about in the private VIP Discord. Discharge. Sorry.
Discharge.
We keep working
Discharge.
on the pronunciation of that word. You also get my extended aura cleanses if you're interested in my little healing sessions. We do much longer versions on the Patreon. So thank you to our patrons. And we will see you all next week for another, what I'm sure will be an exciting topic.
Titillating.
On the House of Herby. See you soon. Titillating.